So Disney Plus is here now. And the great thing about Disney Plus is that you can stream all the Star Wars content. And my favorite Star Wars movie, this might be a little contentious among people who are fans, is Rogue One. And the reason I like Rogue One is because it closes the loophole left in A New Hope. It's like, okay, we're gonna blow up an entire Death Star with one shot. How is that even possible? Rogue One tells you how it's possible. So I love Rogue One. Minus one part of Rogue One. So Darth Vader comes back, which is awesome. It's always good to see Darth Vader on the screen, but then he comes back with the lamest dad joke of all. So General Krennic is talking back, and so he starts to choke him. He force chokes him like that. And he says, "Don't choke on your aspirations." That is by all means a dad joke, but it's kind of true. You shouldn't choke on your aspirations. And some people aspire to be something or aspire to do something for the Lord, and then you get to a point in your life, in your walk, and you feel like you're stalled in your call. And so I think a good place to look is Romans chapter 1, because Paul talks a lot about what our calling is as Christians, but then we can actually look at something that he's desired to do, and he says that plainly in the text that he desires to do it, but it takes him quite a while to be able to do it, and he doesn't show up in the way that he thought he would. And so in verse 6 of Romans chapter 1, it says this, "And you are included among the Gentiles who have been called to belong to Jesus Christ. I am writing to all of you in Rome who are loved by God and are called to be his own people. May God the Father, the Lord Jesus Christ, give you grace and give you peace." So obviously our ultimate calling is spelled out here by Paul. You are called to belong to Christ. And so many of us will be like, well, am I called to, go to the Habit for lunch, or am I called to go? So there's effectual calling and then general calling. Well, our ultimate calling is to belong to Christ. But then something interesting happens. In verse 8, he says, "Let me say first that I thank my God through the Lord Jesus Christ for you, because of your faith in him is being talked about all over the world. God knows how often I pray for you. Day and night I bring your needs to him in prayer, whom I serve with my whole heart by spreading the good news about his son." This is important. One thing that I always pray for is the opportunity, God willing, to come and see you at last. For I long to visit you and to bring you some spiritual gift. So Paul's writing to the church in Rome here. He longs and he prays for it daily to go and preach in Rome. And it takes him quite a while to get there. And then he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't get there the way that he had planned on going there. And so if you're feeling stalled in what you feel you've been called by the Lord to do, we could take a key from Paul here, and I just got 3 things that can help you out. Number 1 is you need to ask yourself, am I ready for it? That might seem simple, but you really need to be honest with yourself. Am I ready for it? Paul met Jesus at the end of chapter 9 of Acts and had this great experience with Christ, and he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to make an impact for him, and I'm going to go and I'm going to preach in Rome, I'm going to spread the gospel all over. Well, you know how long it took him before he started his missionary journeys? It took him 13 years. So what was he doing in those 13 years? Yeah, he was called, but he had to get ready for it. And so he spent time around the apostles, learning the teachings of Jesus and becoming prepared to do it. And so don't neglect the time that the Lord has set aside for you that might seem like time that you're just waiting, and maybe that will be a time of pruning and preparing. Number 2, you need to ask yourself, why do I want to do it? Why do I want to do it? He says, I pray day and night to bring you a spiritual gift and then to also be encouraged by your faith. It can't just be for you. Your calling isn't just for something that you want to do, but it has to advance the call and the furtherance of the gospel. And so he says, I want to take and bring them a spiritual gift. I want to enrich them, but I also want myself to become better. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And so it can't just be for you. So you have to ask yourself, am I ready for it? Why do I want to do it? Is it just for me, or is it for the furtherance of the gospel? And number 3, and probably the hardest one to swallow, is, are you willing to show up in chains? Are you willing to show up in chains? Listen, sometimes God's not calling you to bigger and better things. Sometimes he's simply calling you to better things. I'll say it again. He's not always calling you to bigger and better things. He might just be simply calling you to better things. How did Paul finally show up to Rome? Well, he showed up as a prisoner. He showed up in chains. But the Lord still worked through him. And when he got there, he ministered in a powerful way. He ministered even in a jail. And so, again, you might show up in a way that you didn't expect. But if you take care of what is on God's heart, he will take care of what is on your heart. You know, the scriptures say, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. If you delight in the Lord, it doesn't mean that he's going to give you whatever you want. It means that he's going to put on your heart what it is that you should desire. And so if you feel like you're stalled in your call, or you're stalling in your calling, or whatever else rhymes, number one, am I ready for it? Number two, why do I want to do it? Is it for more than just my desire? And then number three, will I be willing to show up in chains?